Hi there, overly dramatic YouTuber here, and in one of my previous videos talking about the possible GOATs of Valorant, I saw a lot of people mentioning Eric Santos, aka Aspas, who was planning a part 2, but the like goal was never achieved on that video. Damn. So instead, I got something even better for you all. A video dedicated to Brazil's first superstar duelist in VCT, Aspas, and the traits that make him very scary in Valorant's pro scene. One of which is the fact that he's an offensive genius that survived many metas. Currently, we've seen a number of amazing players once dubbed as the best on one agent, where their monster stats separated them from the rest. However, Aspas is proving to be one of the few to adapt to multiple metas, characters, and maps, while still being in the conversation of the best, one of which is the current Raze meta that we're living in. And don't worry, we'll get to his legendary Jett skills. I just want to mention his Raze in the past and recently, because this agent doesn't only prove that Aspas can dominate constantly on multiple agents, but his growth as an individual too. In the past, he had games where he was an absolute problem for the enemy team, as well as games where his impact wasn't as great. This year though, Eric's Raze has been amazing. But there was one game that you could say and see was his worst. The one versus Loud, his former team in kickoffs. I want to focus on the bind map, where Leviathan would win here, but mainly thanks to the likes of King's +8 KDA and Texas' insane 7 First Bloods. Aspas will go -5 with a meager 129 ADR. And following the loss to Sentinels, Eric could have gone down several paths, while he watched the team that eliminated him go on a crazy run at Masters Madrid with one of his former teammates, one where he could blame his situation and team dynamic. It would have been easy for him to point out that Leviathan dropped Nazweer for Calm late into the offseason, which probably affected the team's chemistry, that they have an unproven coaching staff, and that his teammates put up stinkers on other games too. But he didn't. Even in the impressive wins, he still points out his own weaknesses. Like in this clip where jokingly, Aspas looks at his own plays and say he could do better.
Toda a história do VCT pegando 47 abates num mapa. Aspas, qual que é essa sensação?
Sinceramente, quando acabou o mapa, eu pensei, não é possível, eu dei umas 10 vezes, não matei um cara na ult. Então agora eu decidi que eu tenho que jogar mais ranked de Raze, porque eu não jogo faz tempo, só jogo de Jett.
If you watch his streams afterwards, you will see that he owned up to these words and actually started playing Raze more in ranked. This shows a leadership trait that you love to see. One where your best player says he could do more, despite putting up an historic performance. When Leviathan got eliminated in kickoffs, people were pointing at his teammates, but Aspas didn't let that noise stop him from getting back into the lab and training to be better. That dedication resulted in him claiming history with 47 kills on a singular map, and best believe leading by example is a thing. Despite being an adult, when we see our leaders work hard, that can trickle down to everyone else. The same is true vice versa. If your star player isn't taking practice or the little things seriously, then that can impact others too into thinking, why should I? Also, if you watch that game, you will see that he got those 47 kills with the help of his teammates too. Looking at the kill feed in this Leviathan versus Sentinels game, you will see Aspas' name quite often. However, you will also see his teammate's icon right next to his, indicating their involvement. I mean, tell me this feed isn't cluttered with a lot of agents' faces. There's tons of examples of his teammates setting themselves up for Aspas to get a kill, like on round 19 where Calm is just practically begging to get killed here, but guess who's right there to clean things up and get the trade? Yep, Brazil's Wonder Boy himself. On round 4, Mazinho and Aspas lead the charge on C-Mao with TPs and satchels. Once again, a Leviathan player takes the initial contact while their South American duelist is there to reap the reward. I could go on and on about just this one map. And I'm not saying that Aspas didn't earn some of these frags either. I'm just pointing out that it takes a well-oiled team to bring out the best in their star players. You can come into a match with a game plan, but executing on said strategy is hard. Same thing with adapting on the fly, which a lot of pro teams have to do throughout a match and series. And Mike Tyson said it best himself. Everyone has a plan until you get punched in the mouth. At the end of the day, teams can draw up plays and tactics for players, but it's still up to the individuals to act on them. Eric's insane positioning and precision allowed for these successful conversions time in and time out again. Of course, there's a level of trust he earned from his comrades. After this game, you could see that level of respect just increase too. Eric is basically your favorite pro player's favorite pro player.
Nah, I think Aspas says the GOAT still. Like, this guy's the GOAT, bro. Aspas is the GOAT still. I mean, not like I ever said this, like he wasn't the GOAT, but like, yeah, he's the GOAT.
personality clash. I think gels, right?
How we can
That's
play
still the
together,
best
how we
duelist
can compromise on
pro
how we
Val
want
so
to play
far,
our situations.
The undisputed GOAT to me
stuff like
is
that.
ASpas.
Come to a compromise.
Damn. Who are you most excited to play in VCT this year?
Aspas for sure. I think he's the GOAT, and I also want to...
ASpas is your GOAT?
Yeah, he is my GOAT.
Yeah.
Also tennis. I want to play tennis too.
Yeah?
But first, a word from today's sponsors. Mini Heroes, Summoner's War. Recruit, command, and conquer in this story-driven adventure that has over 30 chapters and challenging bosses. It has something for both casuals and obsessive players, whether it is PvE or PvP. You can also play anytime, anywhere on your phone or even PC with certain websites. So you can bust out this bad boy for those moments where you're bored or maybe have a long queue time in game. It's a strategy based to keep your brain active as well. Be sure to click the link below if you want to check out a game that has rich rewards, free to play, friendly, and over 30 different forces to customize your journey. Thanks again to Mini Heroes, Summoner's War for this sponsorship. But now let's talk about his bread and butter, Jett, the poster child for Valorant. An agent at one point in time was synonymous with peak of Valorant. If there was a highlight reel, then best believe you will find a Jett somewhere in it. Every team and their mamas had someone dubbed as a Jett one trick. And back in the day, it wasn't a negative statement like how it is nowadays. I say all of this because if you were a player making a name for yourself on Jett, then that meant that you were outshining popular players who were flashy and had the 0.01% best aim in the world. ASpas was constantly in that conversation when he steps foot on the scene. However, there was one play that gave him one of his many nicknames.
Screen, Aspas fica completamente cego, é o Sadak, Aspas aparece também, pancada, e agora, só falta é o Screen, na ultimate, tem que tomar cuidado, 2 contra 1 agora pra ele, o Aspas, gira, vai pro lado, vai pro outro, Aspas, gira, Aspas, garante o ponto.
Gira, Portuguese for spin. It was used to describe this play and has been a part of his image ever since then. His fans dubbed him the final boss for a reason. The origins came from his meteoric rise in Brazil's rank ladder. He started playing only on the 3rd act, way after most pros. But it took less than 10 days for him to reach Radiant, and by the end of the following act, he will eventually hit rank number 1. While Kazim, Les, and Tuas were known as rank demons, ASpas was the rank demon, to a point that many in the high-level communities thought he was cheating. And for someone who we know wasn't breaking the rules, being called a cheater is low-key a compliment, an ego booster. Imagine reaching a skill level so high in a game that people think it's not humanly possible to achieve. Eventually, he'll become so feared that people will call him the final boss to Brazilians' rank ladder. So not only did he break people's ankles, but also people's hopes in becoming number 1 in Brazil. Of course, there's a lot of great South American talent like MW0 and Kesnet, but what separates ASpas for them is simply his achievements and showing up when it counts the most. There's a reason why he's currently the most decorated Brazilian duelist in Valorant. He's actually not far off as just being the most awarded duelist in all of VCT in general. He has big numbers when Loud won in the past, as well as when they lost, like in Lock-in Sao Paulo, Brazil Grand Final. On the map, Fnatic found themselves down 9-3 at the half and then eventually 11-3, losing both pistol rounds in the process too. Rounds mini-sig can dictate the outcome of a map. The only reason why Fnatic were so behind was because Loud were crack on the attacker end, especially ASpas, who went plus 14 with 251 ADR. That's almost 2 kills per round worth of damage when the enemy has full shields. Win or lose, you can expect this man to still go above and beyond his job and separate himself from the rest of the pack. We've seen him dazzle us on other duelists like Neon and Reyna too. I typically have more respect to flex players and IGLs because they're juggling multiple hats to make sure the team dynamic is sound. And what's even more impressive is that the hats that they are juggling aren't similar either. The same applies to initiators and duelists too, in my opinion. And let me explain. We have a lot of examples of duelists making a good transition to controller and sentinel because the agents within these classes can be very similar to each other. There are exceptions though, like how Viper and Brim can play very differently. But comparing Brim to Omen, Astra, and even Clove, you kind of get the gist as to how you should play and where to smoke. Again, there are subtle playstyle differences, but we see those differences greater in the Initiator and Duelist class. For example, Fade and KO play almost nothing alike. Shoot, even Fade and Sova, who are both recon agents, require you to learn multiple different lineups, with different utility. Even jack of all trade initiators like Sky and Gecko require a different mindset and skill to use. The same is true for Duelists too, in my opinion. Raze and Jett are both dive entry fraggers, but the skill set needed to master them is completely separate, where Raze has a boombot to clear a corner or two and satchels to dive onto site. Jett has updraft, smokes, and dash. Shoot, even Neon's B-hopping is unique to her. Same thing with Yoru's hybrid style being only found within him. Each agent in these classes are so unique in how they get the job done, which kinda explains why so many Jett one-tricks have had a hard time shining on other roles, especially Raze. Many don't ever want to see Demon 1 on this agent again. However, his past Chamber, Brim, and even at times Astra were still well above average. I just think that certain agents, especially those in the Duelist and Initiator class, require a lot more time to master since they're so different from each other despite being in the same category, which is just a testament to how ASpas has shown pretty good proficiency on multiple Duelists. He is gifted at the game, but you still have to put in the work and time for that talent to shine on other agents within these classes. And don't get me wrong, I'm not calling him a flex player at all, but it does take a level of adaptability to be good on multiple different Duelists. Overall, you can see why so many people in and outside of the Brazilian sphere rate ASpas so highly. Outside of the just for fun videos, it might be too early to name a de facto GOAT of the sport, but Eric is positioning himself nicely to be in that Mount Rushmore of greats. Getting a few more international high placements and even trophies without too many slumps in between will definitely help his case. However, only time will tell though.